Good evening, everybody. Happy Easter. Happy Easter Sunday. I hope you got over the disappointment and the misery of yesterday, where it finished West Ham 1, Southampton 1 somehow in the London Stadium. It was a really crappy day, wasn't it? I mean, let's just be brutally honest. First of all, about the game, but look, we've got a lot of things we want to get through here. First of all, we'll talk about the game. Not going to dwell on it. And then we'll talk about, this terrible run that we're on. It's spanned 3 managers and it started last February. Our squad is dire. We need a proper clean sweep because, as we'll get to Niclas Fullkrug's comments, and he pointed out the bleeding obvious to anyone that was at that game yesterday that the players were not giving it their all. Certain players were not giving it their all, right? And so we've got quite a lot to get through. And then I'll break to you the tragic news of what I did on Friday. I made a purchase, which is starting to feel a bit foolish now. But hey, there you go. You know what it is, Chris.
Oh yeah, I do know. Yeah, I was just, what is that? Yeah, I do know what that is.
How are you, Chris? Anyway,
I'm all right. Yeah, happy Easter to everyone. Obviously in the chat. Yeah, I'm okay. I was in a real foul mood yesterday, mate. I was kind of considering doing a live last night, but truth be told, I just wasn't in the mood. I really was not in the mood, and I kind of felt that it was perhaps best for me to digest and reflect a little bit over the course of the last 24 hours and maybe be a bit more calmer, this evening.
Yeah.
But the truth be told, though, mate, I'm not really not feeling much better. I was angry, but I'm not feeling as much better, to be honest.
I got to say, no, I'm not either. I thought it was grim, and let's just talk about the game to start with. I mean, the selection was pretty much the best 11 he had, right? I mean, Aaron Wan-Bissaka wasn't available. Alvarez has for some reason gone missing. Probably fell out with the third boss in succession. He's not even on the bench. So when you bear that in mind. And he also sent out a bitchy tweet as well, like something like "the truth will out" or something like, "Oh, fuck off, mate!" Right?
Oh, did he really? Was this in the last 24 hours?
Yesterday, when he was bombed out of the squad. Now, we'll come to him. I've got to do some digging and find out what's going on there. But he fell out big time with Lopetegui and with Moyes, as we know. Right? He got himself sent off twice deliberately, pretty much early in the season. This is not a guy who you want to rely on. And we can't rely on him. He doesn't want to be here. He came here as a stepping stone. And I think there's several players in his position who see this as a stepping stone club. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. Anyway, back to the game. What did you think about the selection? Was it kind of what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I was first of all, I was happy with the fact that we played a flat back 4, because if we would have played 5 at the back against Southampton at home, I think that would just been awful, right?
Yeah.
I was relatively happy with the lineup. Clearly, Füllkrug playing up front was something that I really was. Yeah, it's something that we wanted, but AWB obviously at right back, obviously not being at right back, I guess that was a bit of a miss in truth. I didn't really think particularly Southampton played great. JWP in the middle, I didn't want him playing. In truth, I didn't. I think that's fully justified based off the performance yesterday and based off, previous performances as well.
Yeah.
But, overall, I think it was probably, I was pretty happy with the lineup. I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I sent a message to you, didn't I, before the game? I said, it looks pretty decent. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. The main thing was having the striker up there, wasn't it? And
of course it was.
And you got a front 4, effectively, of Bowen on one side. You got Kudus, you've got Paqueta, and you've got Füllkrug up top. What could go wrong? We're playing the worst team in the league down the bottom of the table. What could go wrong with all those brilliant individuals? Yeah.
Well, we clearly saw what happened, didn't we? What went wrong yesterday?
The first half was diabolical. I mean, apart from the 3rd minute, where Paqueta played a lovely ball into Füllkrug, who first time shot. Great save. Probably the best thing the keeper did all day, because he was a bit woeful, wasn't he, their keeper? The one that we're linked with, unsurprisingly. That was really it as far as clear-cut chances for us in the first half. Whereas down the other end, mighty Southampton. By the way, good luck to Southampton. They deserved their point. Their fans were brilliant. They were singing the old favourite, like Case Arsenal, wherever we're going to Coventry. You know, that's one of our old favourites, right? And they were just, they were just, you know, in a good mood, enjoying their last couple of games in the Premier League, trying to avoid being the lowest point scorers ever, which I think we might have just helped them. You know, they're equal now, aren't they, with Derby? So they need one more point to not be the worst. So, and I hope they're not. So I've got a soft spot for Southampton. I thought that first half we were. I mean, we could have been 2-0 down at half time, and that is why the team got booed off, isn't it?
We probably should have been 2-0 down. Actually, I felt that actually it was unfair on Southampton to go in at 0-0. I did.
Yeah.
Like they fully deserved to be at least 1 up, possibly 2 up, as you said.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, we were booing. Well, do you know? Actually, to be honest with you, I wasn't booing. I'm past the point of booing. You know, I'm not really one for booing anyway. I don't really do that during that. I don't think I really ever do that during the game, actually. But yeah, it was fully justified. I totally understand why the fans were booing, because it was a piss poor performance in the first half. I don't know, and I know we'll talk about this probably at length tonight, but I just do not understand how 11 professional football players can put in such a lackluster performance. I just against what is arguably one of the worst teams in Premier League history, I think he's totally unacceptable, right? It is. I put something on what's it called, on TikTok yesterday about a kid that sits next to me, right? He's a season ticket holder with his dad. I'm not kidding you, Gal, right? So this kid, he was sat down on his seat, and you know, we stand obviously in the Bobby Moore stand.
Yeah.
He was sat down on his seat with his head in his hand for about 75% of that game yesterday. Now, I don't blame him, and I get it, because, you know, if you're a young supporter coming to West Ham, you know, you want to see something that's going to get you off your feet, be entertained, whatever it is, a bit of excitement, something. You're a kid, right? Yeah. Imagine turning up as a kid watching that shite. I mean, we're kind of accustomed to it, right? We've seen a lot of crap over the years, in fairness, right? We're West Ham fans. We've not had a great deal of success. Yeah. If you're a kid and you see that, I don't blame him, because I think genuinely he had more entertainment staring at his feet than he did watching what was on the pitch. And it's such a shame, because, you know, when we were kids, like, we go to West Ham, go down to Upton Park, and your eyes are glued to the pitch, right? You're watching the game, but people aren't. People are just chatting around, and it's just like, it's just not enjoyable whatsoever. It's I can't even articulate how I feel, Gal. I'm so angry, and I don't want to go off on one, because I am so fucked up with it all. But it's just absolutely pathetic. And frankly speaking, you mentioned a few of these players that you think that perhaps they're playing, you know, for West Ham as a stepping stone. I think there's a lot of players that just do not want to be at West Ham. You know, the very least you expect is fight. You know, you fight for that fucking badge. I say it all the time. Fight for that badge. Show a bit of desire, but they don't, and that's not acceptable.
The worst thing is, we know how good some of these players are. We genuinely do. We've seen them at their best. We've seen good Paqueta. We've seen good Kudus, right? We've seen Alvarez when he was playing well. We've seen, you know, he couldn't be responsible for yesterday, but maybe he was in some sort of way. We know that Emerson is finished. We know it, as a defender, I mean, not as going forward, he's all right, but he can't defend. And also Southampton on the other side. And when you look, as we're going to look shortly, at the common thread of what happened since last February, you know, ever present in those sides that got fucking battered here, there, and everywhere, was Emerson at left back and Southampton at right back. Yes, there was the Zuma factor as well in the middle. He couldn't move. But the fact is, there's a lot of people. Kudus was ever present. Bowen even was ever present. Not blaming him, by the way, but he's got to take some blame for yesterday, because goal aside, he was terrible. Paqueta, I fucking hate this, right? As soon as we went 1-0 up in that second half, the minute we went 1-0 up, he starts with the party tricks and the showboating. And I just thought, you know, I said the other day, he looked really focused against Liverpool, because he did. He looked really focused. No showboating, nothing, right? Yesterday, it's like he don't give a fuck. He's like he's taking the piss out of us, right? And I know he did some good things. You know, probably a lot of the stuff that happened that was any good yesterday would have come through him. But you do not set the expectation or set the right kind of mood if you're fucking having a party, right? If you're pissing around. He's a senior player in that team. He's paid a lot of money, and I don't expect that. And that is my problem with Paqueta. As well as that, probably since last February, well, probably for 2 seasons actually, he's probably produced 5 or 6 maybe top class performances that we know he can produce. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get what you're saying. I do, and I would agree. I think showboating in a game like Southampton when you're 1-0 up, or even at 0-0. I know I can think of one particular moment. I don't know if there are more that I missed when I wasn't actually wasn't watching the game.
Well, first half of last season, Chris, he was
Mm.
was it first half last season? Wasn't it? Because that's when we beat Arsenal and Tottenham in the up in December, right? Of 23. The first half of that season, he was really on form. Paqueta, that was the best of Paqueta. Then he went away with, I think he had the Copa America, whatever, and then it came back. I think late in Feb, and then there was nothing from then till the end of the season. There was literally nothing there. Kudus went away to the African nations. He was on fire before he went away. Nothing when he came back. Nothing at all. And there's been nothing since from either of them. Right?
Yeah.
By the way,
it's
light in the mood. Thank you, Mark Pendleton. Everyone is clamoring for a rebuild, but unfortunately, Marinakis is not our chairman. No, you're damn right he ain't. We're going to come to all that anyway, because I've actually done some homework today and I want to share it with you. But let's just focus again on yesterday. Who comes out of that game with any credit? I mean, look, Füllkrug. There was some fabulous moments from Füllkrug. He looks to me like a proper player. He played a couple of round the corner balls, one for Kudus to run on, which Kudus of last season, of the early part of last season, would have gone direct towards goal. But no, he takes one touch too many and gives the defenders time to close in on him. He just wasn't on it. His first time control was woeful. It's like he wasn't committed, Chris. And I just don't. You know how good he is. That's why it feels like he's mugging us off. We know exactly how good he is.
Well, he is. Right? There was one particular moment that really wound me up yesterday with Kudus when I think someone tried to play a ball into him. Just a very simple pass. It wasn't a great pass, but he just stood there. He didn't even come towards it. And that really wound me up. I just thought, what's he doing?
Looking at it. Yeah, he stood there looking at it. It's fucking infuriating. And when you see that, it sends the wrong messages out. You know, when you look at what Füllkrug did with the round the corner pass and that fucking fantastic bit of hold-up play, very technical hold-up play that it did towards the end of the game when Guilherme came on and played him in for the shot. It was just like he gave it everything, and he was angry after the game, and for good reason. And I'm going to play you that video after with sound this time, right? I'm going to play you that video, just so you can see it for yourself. Love the way he talks. It exudes confidence, right, and standards.
It does, and do you know what? When I listened to that interview and I watched it yesterday, for me, it just kind of made me think a little bit about, the kind of modern day footballer, because we know that money has absolutely ruined the game. It's, we all know that. We've said it for years now. It's just got worse and worse and worse. But when you look at some of those players on that pitch, they don't necessarily need to worry about certainly level of performances sometimes. They don't really need to think about it because they're set financially for life, right? Where you compare that to players back in the 90s or whatever, right? They would get don't get me wrong, it was relative to that time, but they'd get paid a good salary. But they knew that they had to fight every fucking week because their life, wasn't mapped out. They weren't set up financially for life. They weren't. You can see it now with a lot of the ex-players that have to work in the lounges and what have you, right? Because they don't have enough money. Nowadays, there's so much money in football that I just feel it really ruins, the kind of a player's mentality and their love for the game, how dedicated they are to the game. Because you look at Niclas Fullkrug, for instance, he's a player that actually kind of came from essentially the lower leagues, didn't he? Worked his way up, and he only kind of started to hit the top leagues until he was kind of mid-20s, I believe. Maybe I might be slightly off there, but to me, he comes across as like the consummate professional. Someone that is a bit of a throwback from what we were used to back in the 90s, where you go out, you fight, and you have a certain set of expectations on your players, the team around you. But sadly, we don't have that right now, and he pretty much called that out yesterday, as we all know. But I don't think there are enough characters like him at West Ham anymore. I just don't think there are. And going back to your point, hence the reason why I think it's so essential to have a complete clear out of our squad now. Yeah. And actually, get rid of some of these fucking superstars. Get rid of the likes of, look, I know Paqueta. Yes, of course, he's one of our most talented players, as is Kudus, and I get all of that. But you cannot replace fight. You cannot replace fucking desire. That doesn't replace it for me. And if they're lacking that, they can fuck off. That's how I kind of feel about it all,
You got to look at it and say how many, and look, there's one thing I've got to share with the audience here. And that is around what Füllkrug has done. Because I kept bashing on about Füllkrug, about how he's a German international and all that sort of stuff. And people were just telling me to shut up, right? But the fact is, it's pertinent, right? It's pertinent. Because, what he's done versus what Kudus and Paqueta has done. I mean, Füllkrug has played 544 minutes of football, right? That is, I mean, and you know he's only made 4 starts. I don't think he's finished any of those games either. He's played a minimal amount of games, minutes, and most of them from the bench for 9 games. 3 goals, 2 assists. All this XG shit, as you see, is kind of meaningless when you look at the rest of it. But when you look at these ones here, shot creating actions, goal creating actions, you know, it's bloody good for 544 minutes of football, 9 off the bench, right? You look at Kudus, 27 starts, right? 2,241. 3 goals, 2 assists, the same, right? Yes, I think if you did sort of linear mapping, I think Füllkrug might still be ahead of Kudus, maybe slightly behind. But then again, you'd expect more of this from Kudus because he's supposed to be a creative player, as is Paqueta, who's played a similar amount of minutes, 29 starts, 4 goals, no assists, right? And look, you expect more. You expect more from these players. It just shows what terrible bloody seasons they've had. Who's pulling their weight and who ain't? Who's taking this seriously and who ain't? I'm telling you what, Füllkrug is. And I'm going to now, I'm going to put that little video up of Füllkrug, right? So let me just find it. Here it is. Here it is with sound this time, right? I promise.
But the motivation, the engagement, so and I'm very angry.
Yeah, apologies for
It's a mindset problem. Very angry today. Not disappointed, just angry on what we did after the goal. We have to find a way to have a togetherness, to have the idea where we want to go, what we want to do, and the coach is very clear what he wants. So half of the team try to score again, and the other half of the team just try to defend very deep, and that's not the way it works.
Niclas Fullkrug attacked.
So he couldn't be any clearer. He couldn't be any clearer on that. The coach did not ask them to do that. Half the team, including him, tried to push forward. He didn't mention any names because he can't do that. That's really overstepping it, right? But he, you know, he would have created. You know, I'd love to be in the dressing room. Love to be in the dressing room. You know, for training on Monday. I mean, he's going to be a hero with those fucking wasters, whoever they are, right? But we can kind of guess who they are. You know, we had quite a lot of chances in the second half, but I went on 90 minutes, Chris. And I said to Ross, I'm making a move. I can't watch this anymore. I said, it feels like they're gonna get an equaliser. And lo and behold, I walk out the ground, you hear a cheer from the distance, and it's just like, fuck me. Yeah. Really? We can't even beat Southampton. Right? You just felt it coming. You know, one of them games where you just felt it coming. They were getting closer and closer. I thought defensively, I've already said Emerson was shit. He was getting rinsed by Walker Peters, and then you got Southampton, he was caught for pace and lucky not to get sent off because he got booked, and then about 5-10 minutes later this guy went down on the edge of the box. To me it looked like a foul. It was right in front of us. Referee gave nothing. I think he was fortunate there. I think that was he could have been sent off. Now this is a guy who demands that he should be playing in the first team. He can't figure out why the brilliant Aaron Wan-Bissaka is keeping him out. Well, I'll give you a clue, Southampton, mate. I mean, come on. There's, you know, if you want to use the example of Cresswell, who has seemed to have kind of matured like a fine wine and happy to play that bit part now. Southampton isn't. He still thinks he's at his peak. Well, I've got news for him. He ain't.
Yeah, I'm not going to dig him out too much in truth, because I don't think he had a good game yesterday. But I do feel that he's a player that I think wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he does try hard. You know, I guess he has got. I know that.
Much, Chris.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I'm not disputing that. But you know, when I'm talking about players that really fuck me off, he's not one of them, because he does fucking work hard for the team, which is my kind of minimum expectation of any player that puts on the shirt, right? So there's other players that I'd bomb out. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I don't think he's up to scratch. But, you know, like we talk about players that we think should be probably moved on. I know, for instance,
one second. Steve Tiley's got a funny reading into this. He said Füllkrug interview is all about him wanting to get away. He knows. Well, no, the club have issued a statement tonight in the Times through Jason Burt, one of their renowned mouthpieces, to say no punishment will be forthcoming. Right. So I think you're a bit wrong there, Steve. Also, he's famous for doing this. He did it in his last club as well. He has high standards and he expects high standards from those around him. And when they don't deliver, he'll call them out, and it will piss the coach off and the other players off.
Gav, it's not even high standards though. That's not even high standard. This is the minimum expectation that you go out there and you fucking fight, right? I'm sorry, I don't even see that as high standards, because even he said in that interview that bit that you missed out there was that he said we were, we had possession of the ball, and we were playing it okay, that's fine, sort of thing. So it's not like it's these high expectations; it's the minimum expectations that aren't being met right now.
This is a thing that's really pissing me off, right? Someone sees something like that and they think, oh, he fucking can't stand Potter. He's got to go. He's Potter, right? That is how people read that fucking interview when he actually plainly said the coach did not ask them to do this. He's very articulate, like all Germans are.
If anything, Gal, he's backing the manager there, saying, look, the manager set us a game plan and we didn't stick to that game plan. So I don't see how you can look at that any other way. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm with Phil here. I don't think he wants to leave. I think he actually cares. I think he likes it here.
If he did, Gal, he wouldn't be saying that. It's as simple as that. He wouldn't be saying that. He wouldn't, because he wouldn't care. He wouldn't give a shit. He'd be like most of the other players sitting on the beach already, right? So he does care. Yeah.
But look, we know what's been going on. Again, is all I've done. Literally, I haven't watched any other channel. I lie. I did watch West Ham Fan TV Friday night, Saturday night. Post-match pint thing. I quite enjoyed it, actually. It was the very fair comments they made on there. I haven't watched any others, but I've looked at the thumbnails, and there's a lot of rage bait out there, right? A lot of rage bait about Potter. Can he last another game? Will he win another game this season? He's got to fucking go. It's just like, oh, fucking hell. It's like this guy has had the least patience shown to him of any manager we've ever fucking had, ever, right? Because they're comparing him with Lopetegui. I don't even think that Lopetegui or even Moyes, if you go back, and I'm contradicting myself about this, I didn't like Moyes, right? But we know Moyes ain't as tragic as that last half a season was. It's results-wise. That don't happen usually under Moyes. It ain't happening now at Everton, right? Those fucking players had given up, and they threw Moyes under the bus. Clearly, look at the results. Look at the results, right? From February, under Moyes last year, we lost 3-0 away to Man U, 6-0 at home to Arsenal, 2-0 to Forest, 4-3 to Newcastle, 2-0 to Fulham, 5-2 to Palace. Remember that? 5-0 at Chelsea, which I was at, and 3-1 at City, where we just turned up and rolled over. We were non-competitive from February. There was a couple of little wins sprinkled in there, but teams that we expect to beat, right? And then Lopetegui stars. Lopetegui at other clubs, and the former Spanish manager and the former Real Madrid manager, comes across as being fucking useless, absolutely useless, right? Is he really that useless? Or were those players not pulling their weight, right? Because Potter's coming, same applies.
Yeah, I mean, hold up for a second, right? Again, I get what you're saying. I think you've got to hold the managers responsible for those. I know ultimately the players step over the white line, so there's only a certain amount of control a manager can have, right? He can't go over there and do it himself. I get all of that. So I think it's a fair point about Moyes. I think that's a fair point. But I also think that his tenure at West Ham was coming to an end anyway. So I'm going to forget that, right? But let me point out a couple of things here, Gal, right? Yeah. So a lot of those players, they're still here. They are still here. So I think it's the same players that ultimately aren't putting in a shift for whatever manager it is. With regards to Lopetegui, I'm sorry, but he was fucking useless. He was useless. I can't say that's all down to the players. He didn't have a clue tactically. He was tactically inept. Chris, he really was.
Chris, that is how he came across. He wasn't that bad at Wolves, right? He wasn't that bad at his previous jobs. Now, I know he had a certain side of football, and there was a fucking Spanish, language barrier and everything else. But let me read out to you the players who featured heavily in those 8 defeats I just read out for Moyes, right? Now, Fabianski had 2, Areola had 6, because those keepers were swapping around already because they were having a mare and being swapped over, right? And that continued under Lopetegui, it's continued under Potter. Southampton, he played all 8, right? Emerson played all 8. Alvarez played 6 of them. Ward-Prowse played 7, right? Souček, 5 and 3 substitute appearances. Kudus, all 8, right? Bowen, 5 of them. So partial let off, I suppose. I never doubt Bowen's commitment, right? So I'm not going to include him in this. Mavropanos only played 4. Paqueta played 5, and that was because of the international duty, or he would have played 8, and he was injured, right? So when you look at that, and you look at how many of those players that Lopetegui used, because Lopetegui used Fabianski and Areola, he used Soufal, Well, he didn't use Southampton that much, actually. He used AWB instead of him. Emerson, he used him all the time. Alvarez, he used. He got himself sent off twice, ridiculously. Ward-Prowse, he didn't use. He sent him away. So he's not responsible for the Lopetegui reign. Souček, he used heavily, as does Potter, didn't yesterday. Kudus used him every game. So look at the common denominators here. It is Fabianski stroke Areola. Little bit, you can't really blame them as keepers, but they've made some fuck-ups. Emerson features. Alvarez features. Souček features. Kudus features, right? Now, Kudus has got a very, very important role when he plays in this team. He's got to not only attack, but he's got a lot of defending to do as well. When he does it, and the same applies to Paqueta. And when they're not putting in the effort, Chris, they open us up. They open us up. When they're not covering the yards, they open us up. When Bowen's not playing well, the threat just disappears. I think there's a lot of players here you got to look at and say, you got to look at that team and say, how many little cliques are there in the dressing room? We know there's a South American clique. We know that Emerson and Paqueta, for instance, are close friends. I think they're buddies with Alvarez as well. I don't know what the others are. I don't know, what little clique Kudus is in, but it's probably in a clique with Alvarez, the former Ajax clique. I think they kind of loved each other. But when you look at this, Chris, we got what we deserved yesterday. It was 1-1. There are probably 8 players that I would... fucking hell. Look at the squad at the moment. Kudus, Soufal, Emerson, Ward-Prowse, Souček, Bowen, Paqueta, Alvarez, right? So that is, don't include Bowen in that, but then you've got Areola and Fabs, right? I'm talking about players who you think are going to be coming to an end, right? I'm just going through the squad at the moment. Then you've got Antonio, who, and I'm not going to have a go at Antonio over the car crash, but it was self-inflicted, right? He was the one who drove too fast in the wet and whatever else in a car. And half a season, we've had to be without him. We're actually talking about giving him a new contract. I don't know why we're doing that, right? I feel sorry for him. Of course I do, right? No one wants to see a professional go through that. But for God's sake, it weren't the first time he'd written off a supercar. And I don't think we should be doing this thing of, because he's Antonio, giving him another contract. Sorry if that sounds harsh. That's how I feel. Kilman, fuck me, he was awful yesterday. He was terrible yesterday. That was worst I've seen him play for us. He looked pretty solid earlier in the season, didn't he? Even under Lopetegui. Then the cracks started to appear. Are you sure that he can play in the back too, Chris?
Oh, Kilman?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the worst I've seen him play, if I'm being honest, mate. I don't. I think I don't think it's the worst I've seen him play. No, I think collectively as a team, that's probably the worst I've seen us play in a while. Yeah. But then, having said that, I feel like I'm saying the same thing every single week. It just seems to get from bad to worse. Or you'll get the odd 45 minutes here or there, like against Liverpool, and then you think, oh, okay, maybe we're turning a corner. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I just feel that.
Let me just finish going through this squad, right? This is how bad it is. Let me look. Kudus, Soufal, Emerson, Ward-Prowse, Souček, Bowen, Paqueta, Alvarez, Areola, Fabs, Kilman, fucking waste of 40 million. I mean, it should have been 25 million. He's not a leader. He's decent in the air, but then he's next to Todibo, who's not decent in the air, right? So you've got to have someone who's decent in the air. They've all got these massive faults, right? Somerville, he looked really good when he came, little chances he got under Lopetegui, then Potter gave him a chance, and then he's been missing ever since because he wants to heal naturally. Well, surely he should just be having a surgery. I don't know the details, but surely he shouldn't have been out this long, should he? Rodriguez, what a big fucking waste of space that is. It's just Soler, again, he's all right, but Ferguson, what a waste of skin that geezer is. Ings, Cornet's still in our squad, right? Believe it. And we're still paying some of his wages. Zuma, still paying some of his wages. Aguerd, we need him back. We're still paying some of his wages. Fodringham is in charge of Cones. Cresswell, probably, aging. Maybe he'll stay, maybe he won't. But this is a squad. That is the extent of our squad. And the way I see it, 23 out of 28 players are under question as to whether we want to keep them or not. Right?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I mean, unlike you, I actually did listen to various other YouTube channels. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't usually do it, but today I thought, to the hell with it, I want to hear what I don't want to say the consensus, but I just want to hear what some people are saying, right?
Yeah.
I know there were people saying that why would we want to lose Paqueta, because anything that we do good typically goes through him. But my argument would be is he's not consistent enough, and for the level of player that he is, he just doesn't deliver. He just does not deliver. So I would much rather
150,000 quid a week.
Yeah, so
150,000 quid a week, and he barely turns up.
Someone put a comment in the chat just now, alluding to the fact that we signed too many big time Charlies, right? And I actually would agree with that. I think a lot of the players that we do sign, typically, as you kind of pointed out earlier, would see us as a stepping stone. So they'll kind of use us for maybe a year or two, and they'll just down tools and fuck off. That's what it feels like, right? I want us to start signing players again, like Jared Bowen from the Championship, people that actually fight, people that actually understand, the kind of mentality of English football, because I think a lot of these fuckers come over here and they just take the piss. And I think probably little old West Ham will play for them, will do them a favour for a couple of seasons, and then we'll go off to a bigger team. And probably the likes of Kudus 100% falls in that category. I think Edson Alvarez absolutely falls into that category, as does Niclas Paqueta, because we know, before this whole kind of betting scandal came about, he was on his way to Man City after a season for West Ham. So none of these players really give a shit about West Ham. They don't. No. They really don't. So I would totally agree with what that individual said, because I would much rather us sign players that really want to go out there and fight. I can accept losing. Absolutely, I can. I'm a West Ham fan. I've seen it for much of my life. But I cannot accept just a lack of desire, fight, determination. That really, really is the bare minimum that I expect. And if it's not there, then all of these fuckers can piss off, because I don't want to see them at the club, Gal. I don't. It's fucking draining me right now. It really is, just watching this turgid crap week in, week out. I think I've been pretty patient, Gal, as you have been, right? We are patient all the time.
Yeah.
You can blame the manager. Yeah, of course he's going to be culpable for a lot of this. But you've got to blame the players as well, because fuck me.
The manager's not blameless, but he's also not a fucking magician, right? He's not a magician. Of course he's not. He came in after Lopetegui had fallen out with bloody everyone, right? And the way I've interpreted, and I think I'm right, I've got to say it, I think I'm right. The way I've interpreted a lot of his post-match press conferences is he has just been trying to get to the end of this fucking season unscathed, right? Because there are a lot of egos in that dressing room pulling in different directions to him, right? They're not interested. I mean, to me, I think yesterday when Kudus was moved out onto the left, he threw a strop exactly like he used to under Lopetegui, because I'm Kudus. You cannot play me on the left. West Ham, I dictate where I play. I say I play on the right wing for West Ham because it's little West Ham. I will play on the right wing. But hang on a minute, you got fucking Bowen out there, and he got himself sent off and banned for 6 games, don't forget, for being an arsehole.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I think that there's so many things going wrong at West Ham, Gal. You can talk about individuals like Kudus and stuff, pointing the finger at them, but it's just the whole fucking team, mate. It's the whole team. And like when you look at the game yesterday, for instance, right? For me, for the life of me, I do not understand how we can go 1-0 up and suddenly try and defend a 1-0 advantage against Southampton. That for me is just unacceptable. No, it's unforgivable. But you know what? But hold up, Gal.
The players trying to do it. The manager didn't, right?
No, but that's not all strictly. That's not strictly true though, Gal. Because Potter is making defensive substitutions. He's taking off a striker and bringing on Souček. He's bringing on Mavropanos. So he made some bizarre substitutions yesterday, Gal. I'm sorry.
I can't let him off with the substitutions, and he has done that a few times. I don't know. I can't make excuses. I'm not going to make excuses for him just because I feel like making excuses. I think where he fucks up, he fucks up. But that game should have been out of sight by then, Chris. It should have been out of sight. Right. Yeah,
but we should not. I mean, for the life of me, I don't understand how we can play well for maybe like 20 minutes. And I say, well, that's probably stretching it, but well for 20 minutes of the second half, and then think, do you know what? Fuck it. We can go and, roll our tails out on the beach now. It's done. Yeah. It's not fucking done. It was embarrassing because Southampton deserved the 3 points as far as I'm concerned. I think we got away with one there yesterday. I do. Even with a point. We were shit. We were absolutely shit.
I'm not letting Potter off, and I'm not, I'm not going to say I'm completely won over by Potter because he's on trial, right? Until he has a transfer window and we see how the summer goes and how next season starts, right? That is the only way he can get judged, because I don't think especially based on what Füllkrug said today, how the fuck can he be judged on this set of wasters? I mean, the players, who are we going to keep out of this, Chris? This is where it looks really bare, right? Areola will keep as a second choice goalkeeper, so we need a first one. Fodringham would keep for Cones. Scholes, maybe Cresswell. Probably Cresswell, yeah, for a backup to backup. Todibo, I think we keep him. We get Aguerd back. We probably have to keep Kilman because of how much he's cost. We definitely keep AWB, Guilherme, Somerville, Irving as squad filler, and Füllkrug. You bring back Urfi and promote him. Same with Potts. That's kind of, when you look at that, that's 15 players, right? That's 15 players.
It's a threadbare squad.
3 academy grads, right? Everybody else has got to go. We're going to release, obviously, Zuma. Surely Antonio's got to be released. Soufal. Maybe Cresswell is a plus or minus. Ings, definitely. Fabianski is very expensive. You don't need a very expensive backup of a backup keeper. That's like, you get rid of, one at like 26 million quid a year savings on wages alone. If you sell Mavropanos, Emerson, Souček, maybe Kilman, he's worth about 20 now, about half what we paid, right? Rodriguez.
We're not going to be selling them. We're not going to be selling Kilman.
No, but listen, sell them, give them away, right? But say Mavropanos, Emerson. I'm talking about all the players who I think need to go, right, for us to turn a new corner, right? Mavropanos, Emerson, Souček, Kilman, Rodriguez, Cornet, Alvarez, Paqueta, Kudus, Ward-Prowse, right? That is a lot of sales. And to move what I just said earlier about 15, a squad of 15, what we need to bring in is at least 7. We need a new keeper, a new number 1. We need a left back, a proper first choice left back, wing back, a right choice, a right back as well to back up AWB. He's not, he's going to get injured from time to time. We need legs in midfield. We need a complete rebuild in that midfield. We probably need 3 or 4 players in that midfield, and then we need another striker.
Been saying it all season, mate. Been saying it all season. You get rid of those players, we're left with basically nothing, and you have to bring. I mean, we're fucked, Gal. We're fucked. I mean, like if we do get rid of those players, I mean, you're talking about some big names. Ultimately, people that do have decent sell-on value. The rest probably don't have much sell-on value in terms of what we've left with at West Ham because they're not particularly great. So you're talking about an absolute overhaul on bringing in essentially a whole new fucking team. Yeah, but that's going to take fucking time. That's not even like to do something like that is so dangerous as well, because you're talking about trying to integrate a whole bunch of new players effectively into a first 11, not even let alone a squad, because these are fucking first 11 players you're talking about. A lot of those players, they're not all of them, but a lot of them are. That concerns me, because for me, I look at that scenario of getting rid of all those players, trying to bring all these new players in. I'm thinking relegation straight away, because it takes time to adjust. It takes time to kind of build that chemistry and get those players playing the way the manager wants them to play. I think it's going to take a long, long time, and you can't make that many changes in one hit. Sadly, you can't do that. I mean, what teams typically do that? Get rid of 9, 10 players, what you've kind of alluded to, and then start. It's very rare, particularly that many players within your first team squad. You can't do that.
I think, Steve, if Potter had taken a 6-month contract, it's kind of hypothetical because he refused a 6-month contract, didn't he? So you could say he'd be fired now. But then again, if you read Jason Burt's article, which is straight from the board, he's got their absolute backing, and they know there's a problem in the dressing room. They know there's a problem in the dressing room, right? First time they've ever fucking, come out and admitted it. But
if there is, Gal, right? If there is a problem in the dressing room, right? I've got an inkling of the types of players who you probably think, and we all think might be the problem. Then just don't fucking play them. Just don't play them, right? So but if they know that this is a problem, if Graham Potter knows that this is a problem, then fucking out them now. Like, seriously, just say fuck off. Seriously, if you're not going to play for the shirt, fuck off, and we'll play some of the youngsters, or we'll play some of the fringe players that actually will fight, like Andy Irving or people like that. So I don't necessarily know that's strictly true, because I don't think Potter would play down.
This is where that plan falls down, right? I agree with you. That is what I would do in that situation. If someone's not playing for me, fuck them off, right? I would
sell on value and everything else, right? Is what you're talking about.
But he's already got a load of heat on him. Can you imagine if he didn't play Kudus and Paqueta and we went and got beat by Brighton? You imagine how much the temperature would be ramped up then, Chris? I mean, fucking hell, it was between a rock and a hard place here.
I get it. But at the same time, I think I would also respect it. If I understood, if there was a bit more clarity behind this.
Love backing a manager. They love getting on the manager's back. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. You got to have someone to hate. I don't love the bloke. I'm not convinced he's going to be brilliant and everything's going to be good under him. I don't know. But I know one thing I'm certain about in my mind is that he ain't had his chance yet. And for people to be getting really personal with him, I mean, really dreadfully personal with him. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I don't like it.
Job, right? Yeah.
Gal, what I would do, honestly, I would respect Potter if he bombed out Paqueta, Kudus, all of these fucking big time Charlies. No, I genuinely would. And if he started bringing in blood in our youngsters, not just Ollie Skulls, I'm talking about playing Earthy, playing all the, all of the youngsters in there. I'll be like, do you know what? Fucking hell, he gets it, because the season is dead. It's absolutely dead. So what the fuck else is there to play for? At least we can give these kids a chance. I've been saying this for ages. You know, that's what for me, what West Ham was always about when I grew up, was seeing these youngsters coming through the academy, not just like one every 5 years. We could have probably, I think, integrated them into a team a lot more this season because of where we are. There's not, I mean, what is the benefit of playing people that are going to fuck off in the summer anyway? What is the benefit right now? Because we've got nothing to play for. There's no benefit.
Well, I was saying a few weeks ago, it's to increase the value. But frankly, if that's what it's all about, the only one that's paying for that is Potter, right? He's the only one that's paying for it. So I agree with this little comment here about dropping Kudus for Guillermo after yesterday. I would. I'll tell you when I'd do it. Away to Man United. That's when I'd do it. The one that he really wants to play in, right? Souček is a bigger threat than Ferguson. Yes, Souček can be an auxiliary lump to put on up front. Who's going to touch the ball more than once, which is what Ferguson touched it yesterday. And his pass weren't completed. 0% pass completion, 0 out of 1. The geezer just didn't look interested when he came on, just like the last couple of times. What's the point in someone like that, right? We do need pace and athleticism. We need youth pace and athleticism, right?
This is a great comment by Mike, right? So Mike, I played the game professionally back in the 90s. It was all about up here. I think I recognise the name, actually. So money and win bonus them days to give you a good wage. Nowadays, the money's guaranteed, so they don't care. That's so true. Like, that is so true. Where's the incentive to really go out there and work their bollocks off?
There isn't one. There isn't one. You're right, Mike. You're absolutely right. Because what did they used to do? In the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, right? The players used to play, a lot of them used to stay at a club for a lot of their career until the club didn't want them, let them go. But they'd stay there. It wasn't unusual to get a player to stay at a club for 10 years and get a testimonial. And that's pretty much what was used to support them after, wasn't it? Now the testimonials, just like they donated to charity, don't they? Because it's small money, small beer to them.
They don't even care. They don't even care about them, do they? I mean, look, nothing's been mentioned about Creswell,
Yeah. But this is just sickening to me, because there's a common denominator, a common thread between 3 managers, and there is a number of players who haven't turned up repeatedly. And exactly what you said. I am used to. West Ham, one of the reasons you love the player, I gave the example of Ian Dowie last week. If you put in the effort, the fans will respect it, no matter whether you're a bit shit or you're actually a superstar. Nobody's excused with laziness, right? Nobody gets off with that. And this is what we're seeing now, is just people getting away with stealing a living. They're literally stealing a living. One game a week, one game of football a week, I don't feel like playing because I'm in slightly the wrong position, or I don't know. There is no pride in the shirt. They're literally bought here as a transaction by their agent. Kudus changed his agent to his brother. We know how that works out generally. Last summer, he ain't been the same player since. He's not looked interested. He wants a way out. He wants a way out, right? He wants a way out. I'm not saying, by the way, Steve, that Potter's top quality. But do you, hand on heart, think that someone that you or I would consider top quality, that Sullivan's going to go and get them? Because I don't.
No, I don't. I would much rather see potential, like serious potential, coming from the Championship now. I'm tired of signing players, from abroad that just don't seem to cut it, or they want to piss off after a season or two. I just don't want to see that anymore.
Exactly that. Steve Hughes, sorry, Gary, think you're wrong. He's had enough time. Has he? How has he had enough time? He's been here 10 minutes. He's been here, he's been here. The time he's been here, divide that by 2. That was the injury crisis that everyone forgets. He lost his striker, Füllkrug, who's just come back a couple of games ago, right? We're talking about him now as if he's played the whole season under Füllkrug, under Potter. No, he ain't. He had no striker, right? And then he's not had Antonio at all. Lopetegui at least had Antonio for a little while, right? What's he had? He's had Evan Ferguson.
I think the way you know my thoughts on this, because I'm not Potter in and I'm not Potter out. I'm kind of, at the moment, I'm kind of analysing it. I really am. I haven't really made my decision on this yet. I do understand. Now, let me just say this, right, Gail. I do understand why people are saying this, that he's had enough time because there's been no improvement. You look at how many points we've accumulated in the 13 games he's been in. I totally get all of that kind of stuff. But I also would like to point out one thing here, and that is there are so many more variables at play here. You know, it's not just about Graham Potter. It is, as you've already pointed out, the players. You know, the players, what is their mentality like? Are they really playing? Forget Potter. Are they really playing for the badge? Because you're talking, as you said before, not just under Potter, but also under Lopetegui and, you know, towards the latter stages of Moyes' tenure at West Ham. A lot of these players kind of have down tools to some extent. They've not been playing at the levels that we expect. So if you combine that, you factor that in itself, you factor in perhaps all of this, I don't know whether there are some bad characters, bad eggs within the dressing room. There is so much more at play here than just Graham Potter. But I do understand. I'm not trying to back, kind of back Potter up here, but I do understand what people are saying, because some of his decision making has been pretty woeful, to say the least. The reason, why he's been lining up with certain formations, I don't understand. Why he's making certain substitutions, I don't understand. When it's blatantly obvious.
No, like for like against Palace, why we laid down and died against Brentford. Yeah, he's not without blame, and that's why I'm saying I'm not sure about him. I'm not sure about him, but the one thing I'm sure about is he hasn't had enough time. Steve thinks he has, because I think a lot of people, they want to be swapping the manager 3 or 4 times a season. Give him a few weeks. Oh, someone on YouTube said they got to go. Let's fucking get him out. He's shit. The fact is, I don't think he's had a reasonable chance. He's here. He's signed until the end of next season, right? It's the way this is kind of categoric in the way he's written this, Steve. Sorry, Gary, you're wrong. I can think what I like, right? I don't think I'm wrong. That's your opinion, right? He's had enough time. You say that as if it's an objective measure, right? It isn't, right? That's your opinion. Nothing else other than that, Steve, or whoever's opinion it is, yeah? So I'm just saying, we've got to stop. I'm not, if you wanted to be Potter out, that's fine, because we have respectful conversations, right? That's absolutely fine. I don't tell you to shut up, you mug. You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that is where this takes us and divides the fan base and keeps the fan base divided. And that's where the nastiness hit with Moyes, right? Never did under Lopetegui, because everyone wanted to see him go, right? But you always get this hostility between sides. You get one side who are absolutely entrenched, the other side who are entrenched. They won't actually. I do not know whether he's a good manager or not. I don't know.
So where do you draw? Yeah, which is, and I get that, because I'm kind of the same, right? I'm kind of the same. But where do you draw the line on this, though, Gal? Where do you draw the line? Because what you got to remember here is that we stick with Potter, which by all accounts is probably most likely that we will. If we stick with Potter and we back him in the summer, and he spends a lot of the money that we have, well, we may have or may not, fuck knows how much we've got left, and then he has a miserable first half of the season, we could be fucked. So where's the, because I mean, this is the thing, right? Because if you do stick with Potter, you're also talking about investing in Potter as well. So how much do we invest in Potter to suddenly start implementing, bringing in his own types of players? Because there's one thing to point out here, Gal. Is he actually going to be able to bring in his own players? Because that I doubt highly as well, because of fucking Sullivan. So, you know what I mean? It's a tricky one.
Yes, he will be able to, because as we worked out the other week, worst case scenario, if he sells everybody he needs to sell, there's enough money there to be bringing in new players if Carl McCauley is worth his salt, and if Sullivan can do those transactions and not bring his own people in.
But I can't see that happening. I think Sullivan, as long as he's here, he's always going to have a hand in these transfers, and he's always going to have the final say of a yes or a no. So that's what worries me a little bit, is the fact of that little prick in charge at West Ham, that he is ultimately dictating our future. Doesn't matter what manager you've got. If he's going to be the one that he's going to be essentially buying these fucking players, he's the one who's picking these players. What kind of fucking future do we have? Well, we know. We've fucking seen it for years and years.
I know. The thing is that really amazes me is everyone who's sure he's got to go, they seem to have absolute faith that Sullivan's going to bring them something better. Is he? Is he really?
Who else is out there? I mean, who else is out there? I've seen some fucking people banging on about, there's one person I've seen banging on about Jose Mourinho. What the fuck are you on about? Jose Mourinho's fucking spent. We don't want to bring him. I know.
You'd let Mourinho in there. He's got too much mouth.
Of course he has.
And he wants too much control, right? We ended up with Lopetegui because of the fucking agent had a whisper. He was, that's what happened to Amorim. We didn't get Amorim, right?
I know. The Amorim deal was done. That was fucking done, right? I mean, I've heard this. This was done and dusted. But then fucking Salthouse gets in Sullivan's ear. It says, no, Lopetegui. Cheaper fucking option. He's thinking about saving a few quid. We'll go with him. Now, I'm not saying Amorim would have been a better option, but fuck me, I'd rather have had him.
And what did Sullivan do with Potter? What did Sullivan do with Potter? Hide him right at the end of the window when it was too late to bloody sign everybody, and flush the rest of the window away, moaning about Stein, and couldn't do anything until Stein was removed, which left us about a week of the window. That was done deliberately. It was done deliberately.
Because in effect, he's then got a scapegoat, right, in Potter to say, well, do you know what? He's fucked up. But he's not even had a transfer window to even basically bring in his own players that he wants to. Even if he tried to, he hasn't, apart from probably fucking Ferguson, which hasn't worked out, let's be honest.
So look, I'm just believing fairness, and I don't think he's been given a fair crack. Steve Hughes, I'm not picking on you, Steve, but totally agree with all this. But then you say it's clear he ain't got capable of working with the team. Well, nor was Lopetegui, nor was Moyes. What's the common denominator? It's a team. They don't want to work with a manager, is my opinion. Is my opinion. It's not a fact, it's my opinion.
I think no matter what manager you have in the dugout, what you cannot accept is the level of performances we've been basically subjected to for the past 2 to 3 seasons now. And that's a simple fact. And you're absolutely correct. It's the players. I mean, the players have got to be... It seems to me, actually, that a lot of people don't really hold the players to that much more accountable. You know, they hold the manager more accountable than the players.
That's the point. That's the point, Chris. You only had to be at that game yesterday, and I think perhaps maybe because we're going to watch so much of this crap in the flesh, you can see what's happening off the ball. You know, the camera follows the ball generally. You can see when they're really giving it their all. When you see these players up close, I can tell you a lot of them weren't giving it their all yesterday.
No, they weren't.
I include Bowen in that. I include Bowen in that as well.
Yeah, he was poor. He was poor, but Füllkrug, as we said earlier on, I mean, I see him trying to G up the crowd by the Bobby Moore stand. You know, he really cares. You can see it.
Yeah. We're all frustrated Hammers fans. Well, this is the thing, you know, they've got us arguing amongst each other because that's the best thing, right? Yeah. And this is where, you know, I don't want to be having to go at people who want him out. But what I want to hear is real reasons, not how he's fucking shit and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Give me a justification. Give me some data. Give me a reason. You know, don't just say, in your opinion, you don't think he's got the character for it, because you ain't got a clue whether he's got the character for it, right? This is just assumptions and things that people repeat, right? Without even, they've never met the bloke, but they've judged him from a distance based on post-match reports. What you heard, Chris, last week is the players, as in Noble and the youngsters and everything else, you know, they're quite happy with Potter behind the scenes.
I've heard that. I've spoken to someone. Yeah, like, I'm obviously not going to say the name, but someone that's very, very, very well connected into the club, and I know for a fact that those players actually quite like playing under Potter, apparently. Yeah. But that's not speaking for all of them, right? And there's obviously going to be a few out there that we know just want to fuck off, and quite frankly, they can fuck off. I don't really want them here anymore.
Yeah. No offense, Steve. I was just, I just, it's just, you know what I mean? That's the thing that winds me out when people say stuff like that. I know you just type in a message, you know, I do that as well. But it's just like, when you're either absolutely certain about saying you know something or you don't, right? And I just tried to say myself, I'm not sure about it. You know, I'm definitely not in a position where I can call it, as I know he's no good and he's got to go and he's a CUNT and this and that, right? I cannot say that because I don't know it and I don't believe it. I know he's made some mistakes. We've called them all out, but I can't categorically say whether he's got a bad. I can't. And until you remove the fog of these players who I believe have caused us a load of pain in recent times, I don't think you're going to see any manager, let alone him, right? Unless you change the playing staff, you're not going to see. No manager is going to come in and have a fair crack, whether it's him or someone or a replacement for him. You know,
if you look at it from another angle, Gal, right? You look at this year. Standout hammer of the year will be Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Okay, most seasons you probably say, okay, there's probably like 2 or 3 players that you can put into consideration, you know, that could be hammer of the year. This year, I can't think of anyone that comes close second. I can't. That just goes to show how bad we are as a team this year, that we've got one player that stand out, a right back, and there's no one else in that squad that you could say, oh no, he should be in with a shout. No one. Bowen, maybe. That's it. That is literally it.
That was the thing, right? You remember that first game against Southampton, because people were coming up on this, they're going, oh, Lopetegui beat Southampton, Potter didn't. We were lucky in that game as well. We were lucky, weren't we? I mean, we got away with murder there.
Oh, we did, yeah. I mean, fuck me. I'll tell you what, that big lump up front, what's his face? Onuachu, he was battering our centre-halves in that first game up at their ground. And they were better than us again yesterday. They were. I mean, I actually think that they deserve to get probably 3 points in when we played them at their ground, and they probably deserved a double over us this season. That's how shit we've been against them both times. Tony
Wilkins, you say give him a transfer window to bring in his players. Look at the players he picks now. Well, they ain't his players.
Apart from Ferguson, though, mate. Apart from Ferguson, that's a fucking error, mate. That is a fucking error.
Was that just a gamble because Sullivan was offering nothing? Because as we said, as I pointed out, that's why we did the transfer window close early, right? Because we knew he was coming in. We knew it weren't an option to buy. It was done because Sullivan, the amount of bullshit that came out in that window, I got sick of it, right? There were just rumours being leaked day after day after day trying to make Sullivan look busy. Who's a guy that striker that we should have had in the summer from Villa, and all through the winter window. I would put a bid in for him. Yeah. Sullivan's bid 10 million under the asking price, or the total value of the deal is just below. It was just a wind up. The whole thing was a wind up. Totally disingenuous, just to wind the fans up. Having said
why bother signing Ferguson though, Gal? Why bother with it? Even if you say it's a bargain or whatever, what's the fucking point?
Chris, I don't know that was Potter that demanded him. Do you?
I would imagine that you had a big fucking say in it because he managed him at Brighton.
Yeah, I would imagine he's not absolute, is it? And
yeah, but he would also turn around and say, "Listen, Mr. Chairman, I don't want him. I don't fucking want him."
What I was told, to remind you, was he was, when he signed that new contract to Brighton, or when his form went down the toilet, big ego and everything else, and that Tony Bloom asked him to try and put the wheels back on because he's gone to pot. Well, he's still gone to pot. He ain't managed it, right? That's not really, he's not. He's a bit of a lost cause, I think, when you look at his body language when he comes on the pitch. We've got to be honest. Didn't pull up any trees at Chelsea. Well, if he had won the games at Chelsea, he won at West Ham, we'd be very, very happy. It's just he didn't turn them into title contenders. And the American, if you remember, bought a load of players on 10-year deals. He had so many players, Carlos Kickalot from wherever, all worth a fortune, all on massive lucrative contracts. There was so many in the dressing room that he ran out of seats, so had to sit on the floor. It was just diabolical. He walked into that when the American had just taken over. Don't blame him for that at all. Look at his actual results. He didn't pull up any trees, as in he didn't drive them towards the title. No, but nor is a current bloke, right? He's it was a transition period in the extreme. Not saying he did well. He didn't do well enough for Chelsea, right? They set their standards higher, don't they? I don't know, Chris.
They do, yeah, they do. I mean, my thoughts around Potter and his past history at various other clubs, right? For me, I'm just basing him off of what he's going to do at West Ham and what he possibly can do in the future. It's not looking great at the moment, but like I said before, there's a lot of things going on outside of Graham Potter, and I do think that there's a bit of a toxicity going on around that club anyway. But it doesn't help. It's further exacerbated by the fans, because when you've got such a divisive fan base, and this is the one thing that does fuck me off sometimes. When you've got such a divisive fan base, it just creates more negativity across the whole of West Ham, and also the players can fucking feel this shit as well. And I know that because we spoke about it. I know people in the club that have told me this stuff, right? Yeah. So how is this actually helping? I know that we're entitled to an opinion, of course we are. Yeah. But when it gets so fucking toxic where you're saying, "Oh, fuck off," I'm not even going to say the words, but you hear on a pitch. I hear it amongst the fans all the time. I don't get that. Why do we not support the club? Why is it not that we're entitled? I mean, my only entitlement with West Ham is going out there and fighting for the badge. That is the entitlement I have. I don't really care so much. Of course, I want to win. But if we don't, and I know we're fortunate, like I keep saying again and again, I'm fine with it. But why is a fan sometimes expect so much more? Have they actually forgotten about how we have been over the course of the last 34 years? Because we've been fucking poor for a long, long time anyway, right? Over that 40 years, Gal, we have. How many seasons have we been particularly good? You could count them maybe on one hand, couldn't you? Let's be honest. Over like 30, 40 years, quite easily one hand. There's not many great seasons. We think, fuck me, we're amazing then. There isn't. So why are fans so entitled nowadays? I don't get that.
I don't know. It's a unique demand that's come around with social media, basically. I don't know what it is. But we moved into that stadium. They obviously put some statements out to say world-class team, world-class stadium. People were stupid enough to believe that, including me.
And I get that.
Right?
Yeah, I get that. And I suppose that's a fair point, actually, because, yes, we were fucking sold up the river on that one. And I totally get that. So, fuck me, it's West Ham, It's West Ham, I'm used to it.
Can I tell you what I don't get, right? What I don't get is this. And this ain't a dig at people who watch football on TV, because there are lots of reasons for watching it on TV, right? You could not afford to go. You could live overseas. You might used to go. You might not like new stadiums, so you don't go. There's loads of plethora of reasons for it, right? But I think the biggest problem when you've got a terrible playing style is not the TV viewers. It's in the stadium generating an atmosphere. Because you imagine if Sam Allardyce had brought his style of football to the London Stadium, wouldn't have gone down very well, would it? You could have heard a pin drop in there.
Yeah, well, you can hear a pin drop in there now, mate.
Yeah. And you need excitement on the pitch. And so from an inside the ground perspective, in order to get that crowd up and drive the team on, because it is possible in there, but to do that, you do need entertainment on the pitch. But I don't think the people who get angry at the telly are doing it from the perspective of where's the atmosphere or anything else. That's what I'm doing it from. I'm doing it from a perspective of you've got to improve the atmosphere in the ground and therefore the team. I don't really care what football it is as long as it's effective and as long as we're going after the other team. I don't care how we do it. There was a time under Moyes' reign early on with Lingard and everything where I really enjoyed watching that football. It was great, right? As long as we're attacking, I don't care how we're attacking, we must get the fans inside that stadium onside and excited and singing. Otherwise, there's nothing. There's nothing to be had.
Yeah, I agree. But again, going back to my point, it's not just about the entertainment, it's about the fight. You know, if they're not going to fight and you're just going to get a few, one-trick ponies or you know, Paqueta trying to pull off the odd bit of skill, that's not really going to do it for me. That's not enough. It's not just about the entertainment. It's about actually fucking fighting for the badge. Yeah.
I think performance pay soon be an uptick in effort. Well, look, that would just be ruled out by the PFA straight away because these mollycoddled players need to have everything. Ever since the what was the lawsuit that gave that stopped clubs holding on to registrations for years. What was it? So now it's basically all the cards are with the player now, so they can run down their contract. They can hurt the club, whereas in the past the club could hurt them. Neither are right. There should have been a happy medium, but it's been a power shift so that everything is in the favour of the player and the agent, and it just ain't right. A lot of those agents are not so much. Kent says Real Madrid are getting rid of Carlo Ancelotti at the end of April. Reports if we had an ambition could go for him. He could come to us. He went to Everton. It would be. But do you see Sullivan going after Ancelotti? I'd be surprised. If he did. I'd be delighted if he did, but I can't see it. I'm just saying, I don't believe that Sullivan's going to do anything good until I see it with my own eyes. And then I'll give him credit. I've always said that. Players out, people blaming Potter, Füllkrug highlight the players, not the manager. And again, I think, some of it's the manager, some of it's the manager, but not all of it. It ain't sole root cause for this thing. That is all I'm saying. It's a collective effort. Ancelotti's very, very negative. Yeah, of course he is. I mean, a lot of people who love flair football would hate his style of football, and that includes Mourinho as well, right? God, they'd be slitting their wrists with Mourinho, wouldn't they? Good point, Chris. That almost never happens. It's always the manager that takes all of the stick, and sometimes the owners. Yeah, not very often the owners. There was a set of what team did they support? Yes, Valencia fans in front of us yesterday, and they had this banner, "Lim go home." So I had a chat with them. Apparently, Lim is the owner, and I arranged an owner swap. I said we can take Lim, and they can take, they can take Sullivan, and he refused. He would not take Sullivan.
This is where it all stems from. Everything stems from Sullivan and the board. All of these problems that we have, whether it's the manager, whether it's the players, it all starts from the very top. That's where it is. The sooner that fucker is out of this club and Brady, the better.
Michael, it ain't just the manager. He's a great manager, the Villa manager, right? But they've got a director of football there who is top notch. He's top notch. It's a structure at Villa. It's not just a manager. You can't just bring a manager into our environment and get him to change it around. He's already ditched the director of football. We kept him for a season and a half, didn't he? And he got rid of him because he made a fuck up with Füllkrug, which he instigated. And he made a fuck up with Guilherme, who now looks all right and a decent talent, right? So he got rid of starting for no reason at all then. That's what we're saying. He didn't want him around. He basically undermined him every step of the way. We cannot have a director of football, which is why they were saying the other week that David Sullivan's the new director of football. No, he's not. He's the fucking owner. He always was. He's the owner who just does things his own way and carry on doing things with Salthouse. If you think that's going to bring you something a bit better, we'll great. I don't know.
Director of football model would work at West Ham if David Sullivan wasn't the owner of West Ham.
Of course
It's as simple as that. That's what it comes down to. I would like that model. I'd like that model, but it just it doesn't work at West Ham because of Sullivan. This
is the geezer, Menchie. He is the kind of director of football. He's the legend that everybody wanted, right? He's the top dog. That's why he only uses a single name. That's how much he rates himself. But he brings in good players for them. He does good business for them. That is why, he wasn't being had over by Sullivan. It wasn't happening. Sullivan was the one who had to do the deal there, right? And what happened was, just to remind you, he did not want to pay. Sorry, a fucking name of that striker is doing my nutting. The Villa striker we went after. Who was it?
John Duran.
Yeah, John Duran. So we had to pay a certain price in the summer, and it was something like 50 million, right? Sullivan wouldn't pay it. He told Stuyton, I'm not paying that. I want to bring Somerville in, one of Salthouse's clients, right? So go and find a cheaper striker. So he did. Got sacked for it. Yeah, it ain't Stuyton's fault that Füllkrug got injured, is it? Quite a lot. I absolutely loved that bit. I know, look, this is how bad that game was. The highlight of it for me was a great bit of hold-up play at the end by Füllkrug, which was technically sublime, yeah?
I mean, the fact that we're calling that out as the highlight just says it all about that game yesterday. I mean, it was a decent bit of footwork, but fuck me. I mean, Jesus, we really are scraping the barrel when we're talking about that being the highlight,
Yeah. No, I know. But look how we're all arguing, right? We're all arguing. We're West Ham fans. We're all arguing. We're all disagreeing with each other. We're all insisting you're right, you're wrong. The manager's shit. The manager's good. This is by design, right? This is by design. This is what happened with David Moyes, and Sullivan loves this shit. He was more than happy for Moyes to take all that stick. That's why I wanted to keep him, right? More than happy. Anyone looking at him.
Yeah, I just don't know where we go from here. I really, really don't know. And I said this yesterday because, I think there's so much wrong at this club. And as I said just now, it all stems from the fucking top. And until that fucker's gone, I don't think much is ever going to really change. I just can't see it changing. I can't. And it's sad because I just feel like, I saw something the other day and I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this because it got me thinking, right? It was a question that someone put out on social media and they said, would you swap the Conference League? Well, would you basically be happy to accept leaving Upton Park to win the Conference League? So that's what you'd have to do. Right. Exactly. Never. See, I said absolutely fucking no way, because that's like the way I'd rephrase that question is what you're saying there is you're saying, would you sell your soul
I wouldn't
for the Conference League trophy
or any prize or anything given
but here's the funny thing about it, right? And I think it was probably a lot of younger fans were like, yes, absolutely. And I thought, fuck me, like really? Because for me, I'm talking about a lifetime of fucking memories, in the fucking soul of our football club, but people were turning around saying yes. And I was so against that. And I thought, no, like really? I mean, as much as that was a great night, one of the best nights of my life being a West Ham fan, fuck me, combined with all of the experiences I've had at Upton Park, how the hell could you swap that for the Conference League trophy? I can't buy into that. I can't subscribe to that whatsoever. But a lot of people can. They can.
Yeah. No. I agree. Look, it's desperate. Desperate times. I don't know where we go, but I'm just going to give you one bit of news, people, and I feel a bit of a mug for it. But I'm going to be honest with the audience, Chris. I'm going to be honest with the audience. Sounds like a mock me, and I deserve mocking because, as you know, next year is my 50th year watching live football. I first went in 1976 away to Charlton. Said it before a million times. Anyway, to celebrate my 50th season, obviously I was the first to renew on Karen Brady's dashboard. Came up bright green. Gary was renewed, right? I did that. Bought me 2 season tickets in the Bobby Moore lower. And even though they're still charging people to go on the season ticket waiting list, funny enough, they sent me an email to say, if you want any more tickets, let me know. Click here. I went in and I had a look, and I thought it's my 50th year. There was 2 seats over the west, about, I don't know, about 10, 15 seats to the right of the dugout, the right-hand dugout, and 7 rows back. Nice nice seats.
Spitting distance to Sullivan, basically. Yeah, I
bought them as well. So I've got 4 season tickets, and absolute mug. But I thought, yes, exactly, Gary, you mug, says Tony. Yeah, but the thing is, it could be my last season. My eyes are shit. As you
it won't be your last season, Gal.
As you have you noticed, my eyes are shit. I don't know. I just quite like watching football from the side. Now my eyes are shit. I've only really done it this year. So I'll go backwards and forwards between the two, but I'll probably give away some tickets in the Bobby Moore stand for my season tickets, and probably at the end of the season I'll move back to the Bobby Moore stand because I ain't paying that money again. But you know how this works out. But I just thought, this is shit or bust for me now, Chris, and I mean it, because I cannot take going around this fucking roller coaster again and another season of abject misery, getting on another manager's back, get rid of him. Another manager comes in, not good enough. 10 weeks later, I get rid of him. Bad transfer window. If that happens next season, I am done. I can't take it anymore, right?
Well, like I said earlier, I get that.
I'll go out of a bang.
Go out of a bang. Fuck me. I mean, Karen Brady's licking her lips, mate. She's well happy with you. But I do understand like why people don't want to turn up for this now. I totally get it. I really, really do. There's part of me that doesn't want to go. There is, but then I know that I will never stop going. So
yeah, I probably won't either. You know me. I'll talk.
I know you won't. I know you. I know exactly, mate.
But then,
there's no way you're going to fucking stop.
There is another side to this. If it is a shit season, it won't feel so bad paying for the Bobby Moore tickets next season and ditching the expensive ones, right?
Yeah, but if it's a shit season, it'll feel incredibly bad that you bought those seats anyway for one season. Do you know what I mean? Terrible.
I'll be distraught. You can find me in tears in my padded seat. Yeah.
Yeah, no prawn sandwich.
Yeah, no prawn sandwich. It's not corporate, but it's next to corporate.
It's close as, mate. Come on, to be honest.
Where am I sitting, Darren? Nobody knows. It could be over there. It could be over there. Nobody knows. Don't not too bad business in fairness. I fear relegation. Well, that could be it. I could do relegation in my nice padded seat, couldn't I?
That would be going out in a bang, wouldn't it?
I'm amazing. Yeah.
That would be going out in comfort, Gal. That would be going out in comfort, wouldn't it?
And getting relegated in comfort. Brilliant. Yeah. Claire said her parents met at Upton Park. That is superb.
Yeah, very nice.
I'll buy a season ticket. Yeah. Says film. Yeah. First game at Upton Park. Ronnie Boyce's testimonial. R.I.P. Ronnie Boyce. I renewed mine, Gary. Must be a mug. No, not mug, but I mean, I bought 2 others as well, Kent. That's what I'm saying. It ain't just me normal ones. That ain't your measure of mug.
That weren't enough.
Going and buying another 2 more expensive ones, right? That's the measure of a mug. But anyway, look, I'm backing this. I'm backing. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I want to see. Listen, if it's part of someone else, I don't care. I want next season to be successful. I've got to have a good season for me personally, Chris. I've got to have a good season. You're the same, right? You've got to have something to cling on to. We've had 2 seasons of utter shit.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not going to say I can't see it happening because I don't want to be too negative, but I'm not looking forward to next season. Let's put it that way. I'm really not.
Nah. Well, no, me neither. Me neither, really.
But at least you got comfort, mate. At least you can sit down now as opposed to standing up where we sit, where we are,
Will the tourists still come when you get relegated? Nah, probably not. I think those tourists the other day were actually quite a good laugh, actually, in Valencia ones. But it just goes show, in a Bobby Moore lower in front of us, six tourists from Valencia. Lovely blokes.
They're everywhere, mate. They're everywhere. Forget the Bobby Moore stand, Gal. When I was walking to the ground yesterday, Freddie and I were talking about it. It was just they're everywhere. Yeah. You can see them. They don't know where they're going. They're talking a different language and stuff. They've never been there before. We talk about atmosphere.
Valencia shirts on, right?
You talk about atmosphere. Sadly, this is one of the big reasons for it. Is because you're getting people turning up that aren't even West Ham fans at all. They're just impartial. Totally impartial. Just going up there just to see a Premier League game of football. There's some kind of fucking spectacle.
So on that happy note of tourists, going to go out with Canning Town Len. You will see if I go to the wide view.
I like
you
this.
will see, as I said the other night, we've got a few new Canning Town Len posters, especially my new painting, the Black Line, which I love, my favourite pub. So this is the end. Chris, anything else from you? It's been an emotional show, isn't it?
Not really, mate. Not really. I'm done.
I'm absolutely done. There's been emotion in the show, Chris. Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm fucking numb to it all, Gal. Honestly, I feel numb to all of this bollocks.
I can't wait for this season to be over, Chris. That's secretly.
I can't either. I'm not looking forward to any single game for the rest of this season. Probably going to most of them as well, but I'm not looking forward to any of them.
Yeah.
I know you said you weren't sure about going to Forest. I saw your little video you put up.
You're
not going to go?
I'm not going to go, no.
I mean, they're going to be gunning for us because they want to get into the Champions League. So that doesn't bode very well.
It's a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. I'm not going to Forest. I'll go Spurs because I expect them to turn out against Spurs, right?
I will go because I'm fucking stupid and I will continue to go. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything out of that. The only thing that I am expecting is that we should be turning up against Spurs. But fucking hell, you know what?
Chris, I'll probably go as well. You know me. But
I know you'll go. I know you'll be there.
Yeah. I always talk a good game, don't I? And then it gets to Friday night and I think, ooh, maybe I'll go.
I'll just turn up and I'll see you sat there. Like, there he is. Oh, there he is. What a surprise. Gal's there again. Yeah. I'll see you at half time eating the fucking chicken and chips. There he is. There he said he wasn't going. There he is. He's back again.
But look, I'm going to go out with. I uploaded Kennington Lens. Is one about tourists, and we're going to go out with that. I just need to find it, and then we're done. So thank you very much, everybody in the chat. Thanks for all your lovely comments. Thanks you to Claire and Matt for doing the modding. Hope your mouth's better, Claire. Hope you're better. And thank you, everybody who's been watching. Thanks to you, Chris, as well. You've been beautiful.
It's been a real fucking pleasure talking about West Ham this evening.
It really has, isn't it?
It's been brilliant. Loved every second.
Virtual high five, Chris. Yeah. All right. Anyway, good night, all. Come in, new ones.
Hey, Goldie, what's on today's to-do list?
Why, it's match day, Dave. Are you hoping for a full house tonight?
Not too fast. As long as we sell all the tickets. I don't care if you come down here.
We make more money from the tourists here, so I don't care if you come down here.
Nathan Billericker's got a boy for the night. His ex-missus says you better treat her kiddie right. Buys a kid a ticket and a burger and a Sprite. You got a train home, 200 if you like.
Cause I don't care if you come down here. Cause you make more money from the tourists here, so we don't give a monkey if you come down here.
Stop from when a pocket took a bully in the water. Yeah, but lots of rumble, but it can't get sore. Climbs more stairs than it did before. What's his old seat, then he's got to pay more.
Cause I don't care if you come down here. Cause you make more money for the tourists here, so we don't give a monkey if you come down here.
Because the cabbie only goes to football with his wife. He did it as a kid and he's done it all his life. But he don't get a winter fuel allowance anymore. So he's gonna sell his ticket to a bloke for Singapore.
I don't care if you come down here. Cause you make more money for the tourists here, but we don't give a monkey if you're here next year. I don't care if you come down here. Cause you make more money for the tourists here, and I don't care